resource.
My favorite. It is, dude. It's money. All right. So, well, first off, what are you doing right now to study? You said you're using flashcards.
Yeah, I'm making for boards specifically, I'm like watching Boards and Beyond and making notes in my first aid and doing Bethel and doing all sketchy, doing all that stuff. But I haven't really incorporated Anki at all. And then I just make my own flashcards for class.
Damn, you caveman, you. So,
Yeah.
Well, flashcards are good because there's there's like 3 elements of super efficient, effective studying that have been well documented and studied. And flashcards do 2 of them. So there's you want it to be active, which it obviously is. You want it to be like a testing format, so you want it to be like posed as a question, which is what flashcards are. But the third thing is called spaced repetition. So basically, you want to increase the interval at which you see things, and it's kind of hard to do it manually, which is why Anki's so cool, because it essentially handles that for you. So you want to see the material again right before you're about to forget it, and there's a grading format on Anki, so it takes care of that for you. Because if you were to manually try and do that, it's almost impossible. I mean, you could say I'm going to review this lecture day 1, day 4, day 7, but it's harder. And then with Anki, it mixes and matches. So if you know cards better, it shows you those less. And if you don't know cards as well, you see them more, which again would be hard to do manually. So that's why I think it's so cool, because of that third element that it adds. That's really special.
Okay. Anki, there you go here.
Here we go. Yeah, so if you do Anki flashcards, you'll get it should be the first thing that pops up on Google. There we go.
Are you seeing my screen right now?
No, I can't unless you share it with me. But I shouldn't need to see your screen. So
Anki Web is a free companion to the computer version of Anki. Is this what I want?
Yeah. So is there like a download prompt?
Well, I think I might already have it.
Yeah. So what does your icon look like? Is it a rectangle that has a blue little star in it?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it.
2 blue.
Okay. Cool. It has what? 2?
Yeah, 2 blue stars. So if you want to see, here, let's freaking share my screen.
All right.
What do I do? Share your screen. Add Facebook extension. Sure. Oh, I need to add it. I don't have this downloaded.
Oh, that's fine. It should be right. And then, all right, I'm going to email you a specific card format, because this is part of what I do. So, yeah, go ahead and ask me whatever.
Yeah, so what I have on here is
Did you download those cards?
Yeah, so
if you click on them, it should give you the option to incorporate them into your existing Anki cards.
Hold on 1 second. Ryan, my school thinks that you're like trying to hack me or something. Here we go, download.
Maybe I am.
Okay, downloaded. So then I click on the download, and I probably should just open. Yep, it's opening in Anki.
All right.
Cool. 22 cards imported.
Okay, perfect. So don't worry about that. You can actually delete. Actually, we'll just leave it there for now. But so the point of that was to just give you this card format that I use. So now we got all the minutia out of the way, so we can get going. So first thing you do is create a deck. Are you still there? Okay. You weren't moving. I wasn't sure if you froze or not. like that one video.
I'm known to do that in videos. So.
Remember that video? First 10 seconds.
Of course.
All right. So on the top, not on the top, on the bottom, if you click Create Deck, you should be able to type something in. Create Deck. So what class are you in right now?
I am in respiratory.
So just type respiratory then. That's your deck title.
Okay.
So did that deck appear?
Yep.
All right. So then if you click on that, right now it's empty. So this, and then what you're going to want to do is you're going to add cards then. you click at the very top. There should be an add button,
Yeah.
and then you look at card type. Right now, it's probably just like a simple format. Is that what you have? Like a one question, one answer?
This is basic.
Yeah, so then go to type, and you want to find updated format. That's the type I sent you.
Updated, formatted.
Yep,
That
update.
one?
Yep, you want that one. So then do you have do you have 6 questions on there now?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is what's money. So like normally this isn't the way that
So you don't use the close one? You don't do that?
No, so the way, I mean, I don't use Anki, I guess, as it's truly intended, because it's truly intended to just be like really discrete little pieces of information. So rather than having like 6 questions on a card like I have here, in reality, according to the Anki gods, you want to have 6 separate cards because you really want to isolate what you know and what you don't know. But I don't like that because it's disjointed. So this allows you. What's that?
You should see my class cards. Like, let's see if I got something. Like here, like restrictive cardiomyopathy, and then on the back.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, quite a bit of information on there.
Perfect. Yeah.
Like
So
presentation.
exactly. Yeah. So you can do that with this format, which is what I like.
That's why I didn't like Anki before, because I was like, I'd rather have one flashcard with all my information on there.
So with this setup, you can do that now, which is why I like this better. So it's not the true intended use of Anki, but it allows you to compartmentalize things. So yeah, so this card right here, you could basically type what you have on that flashcard you just showed me, and you could put it on this card right here, and it'd be perfect, which is why I thought that this would work really well for you. And then there's other additional things on here too. So like extra is, there's extra, you can put links on there, and then tags at the bottom, just ignore that for a second. So the other cool thing with this is you can make screenshots super easily. So I like pictures, so I'll throw a relevant screenshot from lecture in either the answer portion, or I'll just throw it on extra if it's something I want to reference that isn't directly related to a question I ask. So when you're writing the questions, you want to make them pretty pointed, but you can throw in accessory information. So I'll have like question 1, I'll make it pretty pointed, but if there's other information that I want in relation to that, I'll put that like in parentheses, or I'll just write it in there and I'll bold the important stuff. So like you can put as much information as you want in here, but you want your questions to be pretty pointed and narrow, and then just have accessory reference information on there. Does that make sense?
What am I putting in the topic?
Whatever you want. So like, what was that card you just showed me? The top, I don't really use that much, to be honest. Like so your topic would be restrictive cardiomyopathy, and then you'd go through and you'd write your questions. There is how that would work. And then just a couple more things too. So then tags is really important, because you tag things by lecture. That's the best way to do it. So you tag things by lecture. So you can imagine it as subdecks within your deck. So you'll make all your cards that have the tag for the lecture, and it's like you made a stack of 10, 15, whatever cards that correspond to that lecture. So, and then the other really important thing when you're doing tags too is you can't have any spaces, otherwise it'll create 2 separate tags. So like if I wanted to create a tag that was renal respiratory, I couldn't type renal space respiratory, because it would make one tag renal, one tag respiratory. So you have to do an underscore between words to keep it as one tag. Does that make sense?
So when I'm doing for the tag block, like I have all of this, I can scroll down, there's like Q and A for 6.
That just auto-populates that. So whatever you put in your tags on the bottom gets auto-populated in that tag section. I don't type anything in the tag section. It just gets auto-populated, and it's, in my opinion, it's not really a necessary element of this card. So, yeah. Does that make sense so far?
Yeah.
So that's honestly all I do. So I'll have this open, and I'll go through a lecture, and rather than write anything or make an outline, I'll just start making cards immediately, and I'll divide things. It's not a perfect science, but I'll divide things as I see fit according to cards, and I'll make maybe like 15 or 20 cards max per lecture, and then I have them all there, and that's
Okay.
that. And then as far as, so do you want to make like one card right now? It can just be super simple. It doesn't matter. It can just be
Can it be like one card? Can it be like just a few questions?
yeah, it can just be a BS card that you can delete later if you want. So. Then you just, so you have it in the appropriate deck, right? In the top right, it's in respiratory, and then you hit your tag. I guess for this, it doesn't necessarily matter, but so your tag would be the lecture, and then you just hit add, and then you can exit out of this. So then it disappeared, right? And you have a new blank card. So then you just keep adding until you're done with that particular lecture, and then you can exit out of this, and then you should be able to find that deck that you just made.
So there's 2 cards.
Yep. So they're new cards right now. So the way I do it is I'll make my cards on day 1 or whatever. So like, let's say like yesterday I had 3 lectures. So yesterday I made my 3 decks for those lectures, and then I didn't do anything else with them. And then today I'm going to go through them for the first time. And then after you go through them is when they're incorporated into your review rotation. So until you've gone through them the first time, they don't get that increasing repetition doesn't happen. So I mean, you could do it the same day if you wanted to be really aggressive, but that'd be a lot of work. Because this is like kind of akin to making like your study sheet or whatever that you may do on day 1, but it's just you have this format that will be continually and easily recycled now. So then if you go to study now, it'll start showing you your cards, and so so you would just
it says the topic, right? And then it says so then I say show answer,
and then your answer
all of them at once.
Yeah. I don't know how to get around that. It would be ideal if it like popped them in incrementally, but so I'll have like 1 through 6 or maybe less, and I'll do my best to answer all of them as I go through, because a lot of times they build on each other for my cards, and then I'll do then I'll show the answers, or I'll like hold a piece of paper over the 2, 3, or 4 so I don't see the answers right away. But yeah, it's not perfect, but
Good.
And then so then you see the rating system on the bottom. So that's the algorithm that basically creates your schedule for you. So, and again, this is where it's not perfect with if you have 6 questions on a card, because I mean, ideally it's supposed to be super cut and dry, like you get the card wrong or you get it right, but so it's a little more variable here. So you could say I'm only going to call it easy. If I get 5 out of 6, I'm going to call it intermediate or good. If I get 3 out of 6, whatever. If I get less, I'll redo it. But so that's kind of up to you. So you kind of have to use your judgment a little bit there, because this isn't exactly how the program's supposed to be used. So it's not perfect in that sense.
What do you
do? Just kind of intuition. Generally, I don't have a hard and fast rule in terms of this many right out of 6 equates to this. So yeah, if I really didn't have a clue what was going on, I'll do it again. If I felt like because I mean, the other thing that's nice is you're going to see these you're going to see these cards a lot. So versus it's hard to fit repetition in if you're not necessarily doing this. I mean, I'll see my cards like, as long as the exam isn't for a couple of weeks, I'll see my cards like maybe 7 times before then. So I get like a ton of repetition in. What's that?
A lot more than I with my, like, when I write my cards out. I usually see them like 3 or 4, maybe.
Yeah, because it's just hard if you don't have a computer telling you what to do, when to do it. So then you grade this. So whatever you want, easy. And then
if I say again, how do I just keep doing the same deck until I say easy for everything? Because then it'll stop giving me those cards.
Exactly. So the first time you see the cards, you have the option to, if you get it wrong, it'll show you again in a minute. You can do good, which would be 10 minutes, or you can do easy, which would be 4 days. And then, so yeah, if you do good, or the first time you see it, if you do easy, or sorry, not easy, if you do that you got it wrong or good, it'll bring it back in 1 minute or 10 minutes, and it's not going to disappear until you get it right. So yeah, so you're going to keep seeing cards that you get wrong until you get them all right in a given session. And then the intervals change as you go along. So this card that I just did, I won't see it again for 4 days. And then at that point in time, the options will be the same. You'll have, so like if I just go into a deck, so if I just go into like a random deck here, anticonvulsant. So the question is, anticonvulsant can cause B9 deficiency. I think that's phenytoin. So since the options there are hard, good, or easy, and the interval depends on whatever the algorithm tells you. So for this one, I've been seeing this card for a while, so they're all really long. But so I usually go with good on the cards that are being recycled through rather than easy. But then it's gone, and that's that. So it's nice because you have a finite amount of cards that you're going to be doing each day. So you have your new cards, maybe you don't have any new cards, but then you have your review cards. So it creates your schedule for you, and then you're not done until you've gotten all those cards right in that particular session. And then, yeah, and then you're done. I mean, it's like a defined endpoint to your studying, which is also different than other methods because you can always like convince yourself that you need to go through the slides one more time or go through your handwritten deck one more time, or you can always say I need to do more. But this has like a really nice endpoint. It's like a little box you can check off, which is cool.
So you want to be doing these every day?
Yeah, I wake up and I intersperse this amongst watching lecture and making new decks, just because it's kind of monotonous to sit there and with the boards ones, I'm doing like several hundred cards a day, so it's just a lot. So I just like to break it up. But so that's like the school portion. Does that make sense?
Yeah. How do I set the amount of cards that I see in a day? And like, how do I study something specific in those decks?
That's a good question. That's where the tags come in. So in terms of settings, so for settings, you just click on the little bolt on the side of your particular deck.
Do I want to? So how do I go? So decks to go back.
Options, okay, yeah. Decks will bring you to your homepage, and then click on the little bolt on the side. Click on options, and then so up top it says options group. So you can make different default settings, and if you change an element within a certain setting, it affects all the cards that have that setting. So I would just leave that for now. And honestly, there's not a lot you need to change. I don't change much. So if you look at new cards, so it should say just leave the options group. Again, if you want to, so this will be an option that you'll create, and then every new card that you make can just fall into this category and have the same set of options. So it's a blanket setup or default for cards with that particular options group. So just leave that. So there's really no need to make. I mean, I made a couple different ones in terms of like how many new cards I would see a day, but it's not necessary. And then so leave steps alone. That's your first two intervals. So 1 minute, 10 minutes. If you get it wrong, whether you feel uncomfortable with it or you feel good with it. Order, I like to leave them in the order in which they were added, because then they flow with the lecture the first time that you see them. So then this is what you'd want to change: new cards per day. And honestly, I just do all of my new cards in a given day. So in the program, even if you have cards beyond what you have as your cap, will still give you the option to continue doing those if you want. So I do all my new cards in a given day. So like today, I probably have like 30 some new cards that I'm going to look at, and I'm just going to do all those today. And then, but if you don't want to, you can cap it at something, and then you'll see your next round of new cards the next day. And then leave graduating interval, easy interval, and starting ease the same. Those are just the default settings, and they work. And then reviews.
It's this thing that says very related new cards until the next day.
Very related new card. Don't do that. I don't really know how it determines which cards are related, but so if cards were related, it wouldn't show you the particular card on that day, it'd show you that at a subsequent day. So don't check that. And then you could change your max number of reviews in a given day if you want. But again, I just do all my reviews in a given day, which is a bit of work with the boards cards. But if you wanted to cap it, you could cap it. I don't leave.
What does that mean?
So that's cards are in two different categories essentially. They're new or they're being reviewed. So when they're new, they show up as blue, and so that's when you just made them. So like the cards you just looked at, those were new. You just reviewed them. Now they're in the review category. So it's going to show you those cards again in a couple days, and they're going to be in the review category. So you can imagine over time as you funnel cards into your deck, you'll have this growing pile of reviews that it continues to show you. So that just caps how many reviews you'll have in a particular day, how many review cards.
Okay. Mine's at 200. Is that good?
You could. That's fine. I mean, for school, you're probably not going to get up to that unless you get like really far behind. But for the boards ones, maybe it's good to leave it there. But you can play around with these too. Don't touch easy bonus or interval modifier. And then the only other thing I changed was max interval. What does yours say?
365. Nope, it says 36,500 for some reason.
So I changed that to 4 months because that just seemed like a ridiculous max interval, because at some point you just like never see cards again. So my max interval is 4 months. So the cards that I continue to get right, you see them at increasingly greater periods of time, and this just caps it at 4 months because I don't know, that just seemed like a reasonable number to me, because otherwise you're not going to see it for like 10 years eventually, which is not helpful. So.
When I won't really care about any of this shit anyway.
Then lapses. If you go over to lapses, don't touch new interval, minimum interval, a leech is a card that you continue to get wrong. So you can adjust your leech threshold. So if you get, what does yours say right now?
The send card. Oh, the threshold. It says 8.
Okay, you can leave. So if you get a card wrong 8 times, it's considered a leech. So what's important is that you check tag only. Because if you check suspend card, what it'll do is if you get a card wrong 8 times, it'll suspend it, and then it's gone in a different category, and you have to go unsuspend it, which is kind of a pain in the ass. So if you just do tag only, it'll leave it in your deck, but it'll also be tagged as a leech, which doesn't really matter. General, I don't do anything for general because I don't have a timer, I don't have any audio. And then description is I just leave that blank. So those are the only things I do for settings.
Okay.
And then as far as finding a card, this is where the tags come into play. So you click on the browse button on top.
So I'm saying, okay, I'm done. Edit.
So I think I know what's going on. So on the left, it should have your decks, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's got a ton of stuff.
Yeah, exactly. So on the left, it has all your decks and it has all your tags. So the things that look like cards and basically mirror what is in your deck on your homepage are your decks. And then below that, there's all the different tags, right? So like the tag that you just made on the cards, is that there? Because I can find the tag I just made for you, for the card I just made.
I see respiratory.
Is that a deck? Is that a deck?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a deck. But I can't click the plus button and bring it down further.
There should be an arrow on the side of it.
You mean like a plus icon?
Yeah, so like I can unfold decks on this.
Yeah.
So if you unfold it.
For some reason I can't with respiratory. I think I didn't put a tag in.
Well, there's no subdeck, so that's only if there's subdecks.
Oh, okay.
So like maybe in your board decks there'll be subdecks.
Yeah, there are.
So that's how you'd see the subdecks within that. So basically, so if you click on, so I have a biochem deck. So if I click on that, it's going to show me all of my biochem cards there. And then if I do the arrow and I fold down, I can see my subdecks within it. But I guess what's more important is finding tags, because so all those decks, do you see cards or do you see tags? So on the left where you're looking, if you scroll like all the way to the bottom.
Yeah, it's just a bunch of tags on stuff.
Yeah, so those are your tags. So like, what did you just tag the cards you made as?
Respiratory.
Okay, so go find your respiratory. Or are you sure? That was the deck. But what was the tag? Did you
I didn't tag it.
Okay, well maybe that's the problem then. So this is where all your tags are going to show up. So
Okay.
like I made a deck called respiratory. My tag was Wes. So if I scroll all the way to the bottom, there'll be a tag that says Wes, and then all the cards that have that are going to pop up there. So that's one way to find them, but that's not super efficient because this doesn't allow you to really. I'm going to show you a different way that's more efficient to like test yourself on them. This is to maybe scroll through them or edit them. But so when I want to see things specifically, I'll do a custom study. So go back to your respiratory deck that you made. So I'll just do the cards it tells me to do up until like I'm getting close to the exam, at which point like I want to roll back through each lecture with the cards lumped just from that lecture, so they're kind of congruent together. And so this is how you do that. So as you click on that deck, so this is where there's a couple options here. So here you can increase, if you want to do like a one-time increase in the new card limit or the review card limit without changing your settings, you can do that here. It'll show you how many additional new cards and reviews there may be. You can review cards specifically by state. So like if it's something you've forgotten recently, you can just click on that tab. You can preview cards too, so you can, this is a way to scroll through new cards without it actually being counted and them going from being new to being a review. And then I don't do any of that or reviewing ahead. So the only thing I do here is study by card state or tag. So in terms of card state, you can just study new cards. Did you click on that little bubble?
Mm-hmm.
You can just study new cards. You can study the due cards, which are your reviews. And then this is what's important down here, the next two. So if you want to review all the cards in a random order and have them be rescheduled, that's what you would pick. So in terms of rescheduling, this means that it affects the algorithm. So there's an algorithm based on every card determined by your answers to those questions on the bottom, like how comfortable you feel with them. And so if you want this individual review that you set up within the scope of the broader thing that the computer sets up for you to take into account how comfortable you are with those cards, you do this one, because then it'll adjust that algorithm accordingly. But if you don't want it to, then you click the bottom one where it says don't reschedule. So it's just kind of preference there. And then if you click choose tags, this is where all your tags will pop up. So at the end, so just imagine that you've made cards for all your lectures. So you should have like 20, 30, 40, whatever tags here. And then so you can just select one tag, you can select multiple, you can exclude certain tags. So this is what I do then. When I get close to an exam, I'll stop doing the scheduled cards it throws at me for the most part, and I'll just do this. I'll go back through my cards based on the lecture and then just kind of tackle it that way. It's cramming essentially. So does that make sense?
Yeah.
All right. So I think that covers all the school stuff. Do you have any questions?
No. So then it started. So now when I go back to my decks,
Mm-hmm.
and on the top it says custom study session. That's still up there.
Okay. Yeah. So you can delete that then. So that'll stay there as you make it. So if you click on that little bolt again and hit delete, it'll go away. Okay. And you don't have to worry about losing those cards because it puts those cards back in their home deck.